I think about my mother every day. Sometimes I think about her on that train. I wish I could walk down the aisle. I wish I could walk down the aisle and find the little wooden seats where she sat, holding tight to her even younger sister, alone, terrified. She doesn't yet know how much she will suffer. She doesn't yet know she will find the strength to escape that suffering. That is still a long way off. The whole future is still unknown as she stares out at the vast country moving past her. I dream of going up to her and sitting down next to her, taking her in my arms and saying, "Look at me, listen to me. You will survive. You will have a good family of your own and 3 children. And as hard as it might be to imagine, your daughter will grow up and become the President of the United States."
Fake news. Fake news. I couldn't resist. I had to torture you guys with a little bit of Hillary Clinton because, hey, she's back in the public eye. I mean, like a true narcissist that nobody wants to hear from, just completely lacking self-awareness. She thought that it was important that the world hear her speech if she had won, if she had defeated the Donald, which she didn't, and she has to take that to the grave, and it's wonderful. But she thought that people wanted to hear her speech if she would have won. This is somebody that just cannot accept the fact that she got her ass kicked in 2016. Maybe she should run in 2024. Maybe it should be a repeat of Hillary and Trump just to double up on it. And no, I don't feel sorry or guilty for making light of her little speech where she tried to get choked up and, garner some sympathy for people who still buy into her lies. I will never forget that this woman called half of the country deplorables. Never forget that. Never forget her mocking black people with her accent. "I don't feel no ways tired. I keep hot sauce in my purse." Never forget that. When I think of Hillary, those are just a handful of things I think of. But she's back out making ridiculous statements. And here's her saying that our democracy is at stake because, Trump and the Republicans.
And sadly, the Republican Party has gone along with him. And for the life of me, people who I knew, that I served with, who fall in line on the outrageous accusations they make, whether it's against Dr. Tony Fauci or pretending that what happened on January 6th wasn't an insurrection. Honestly, they have hung their spines up on the wall as they walk into their offices. They have no conscience, they have no spine. And we are seeing the results of a party that has been taken over by a demagogue.
By a demagogue. Oh, so cringe. I figured we'd start that way and get the stream, get that out of the way. Hillary Clinton saying that it's the Republicans. They just deny what happened on January 6th. Still waiting for somebody to be charged with an insurrection. That hasn't happened yet. And you know what? Hillary Clinton, what she just said there, she represents a lot of what those elites think of you, of your country, just completely. She's probably the most elite of the elitists out there as far as her view of half the country. You've seen that photo of her like standing in someone's studio apartment and she's looking in the kitchen like, "This is what you live in?" Like it was a cringe moment. But moving on, Crooked H, happy she took that L. This is the big news of the day. Big news. Colorado governor declares COVID-19 emergency over. Completely over. Jared Polis has ended COVID tyranny in my home state, Colorado, which is why I'm a little more excited than probably some of you are. Now, this is huge news for a couple different reasons. Number one, they're opening up. So there's a lot of people there, whether you are conservative or liberal, you got to be happy with the fact that at least your Democrat governor gets it. He's waking up. He realizes that there's nothing that can be done to get more people vaccinated. And, I'm all about giving credit where it's due. Hats off to this man for following the science, looking at the evidence, and realizing that it's time to open up the state. They keep giving us these mixed messages. We have to learn to live with COVID, but also we're going to continue this vaccine mandate. And here's a new variant. Let's track the Omicron variant. That's not living with COVID. Learning to live with COVID is not tracking how many cases of the new variant are spreading across the country. Anyway, Polis's statement says everybody had more than enough opportunity to get vaccinated. Hopefully it's been at your pharmacy, grocery store, bus station near you, et cetera, et cetera. And then he said, if you haven't been vaccinated, it's really your own darn fault. Gosh darn it, it's your own fault. Those who get sick, it's almost entirely their own fault. He continued, I don't want to say that nobody will get the virus if they're vaccinated, but it's very rare. Just to put it in perspective, of about 1,400 people hospitalized, less than 200 are vaccinated. I wonder if that's really true or not. And many of them are older or have other conditions. 84% of people in our hospitals are unvaccinated. They're absolutely had a chance to get vaccinated. Now, why I think this is huge is because he's acknowledging what many, red state governors and people who just looked at the science, looked at the facts, knew like a year ago. We have to learn to live with this. 99% of people will recover. The people who are being hospitalized, people who have died, it's sad, it's unfortunate, but they're elderly and or overweight. So he acknowledges that. And then also, he's saying, hey, if you get sick, that's on you. So he's embracing this thing we call dangerous freedom. Dangerous freedom. Yes, there are consequences, natural consequences to every choice you make. So I'm giving credit to this governor for acknowledging that and letting Colorado be free again. So he's lifting all mask mandates, vaccine mandates. Those are pretty much dead nationwide. I mean, I think that the goal of Biden rolling out the vaccine mandate is he knew it was going to get hung up in the courts. He knew that. But it was more about the gesture. It was more about the threat to make people get vaccinated. And I think it worked for the most part because vaccinations went up. But now that federal judges have blocked it, it's blocked in all 50 states. Now I think we might start to see states go back to normal a little bit. And for him to break with his party, the party of lockdowns, the party of mass mandates and tyranny, I think that's huge. He's already getting attacked. I was already looking at threads. People saying he's going to regret this in 3 weeks. He is basically a right winger. Like he's getting called all these names that you would expect him to say about Ron DeSantis. He's killing people. He denies the science. I'm surprised they haven't called him like a white supremacist yet. I'm sure that's coming. He just wants to kill all the black and brown people in his state. Like I'm sure that that's coming. If it hasn't yet, they're going to somehow make it about race. But the fact that he would be attacked by people who are in his own party means he must have done something right, which is break from them. Now, honestly, who knows why he did it? I don't know what his motives are. I think maybe he could be waking up to what's going on, as plenty of people on the left, even Trevor Noah, are starting to get it. Like, hey, hold on. How many vaccines do we have to take? I mean, how many variants are going to be? Like, we got to live with COVID. There's always going to be new variants. So let's just stop talking about COVID and move back to normal. So it could be that, or it could be that, he's playing the long game and he might be up for re-election next year. And so it's probably not expedient for him to extend the lockdowns or the mandates and the mass mandates into 2022. So that's kind of probably what it is it's a move. It's a political move. Because, and it just kind of registered to me, lockdowns, mass mandates, vaccine mandates, the COVID narrative hurts Democrats going into the midterms. It helped them in 2020 because it was they were able to blame everything on Trump. They were able to seize power, help facilitate the 2020 overhaul, right? But now that we just went through an entire year, they got their guy in office. Democrats control the House, and this pandemic is still here. Biden said he was going to shut it down. It doesn't help Democrats that people are fed up. They're fatigued. They've been fed up. They're like, hey, I got my 2 shots. I'm ready to go back to normal. I complied, and you guys aren't letting me go back to my freedom. So all the people that thought that they could comply their way out of this are now realizing, hey, we're going on 2 years, and you're still talking about masks indoors. You're telling me I need to get like 5 shots for this new variant that is not deadly. It's not that deadly. I can't say it's not deadly at all. YouTube will, you know how they do. But the average person is starting to figure this out. And I think this governor has figured it out, whether or not he's doing it in good faith or if he's trying to serve his own political interests. Doesn't really matter at this point. He recognizes that he's got to do something to reverse course because it's completely unpopular. People don't want it anymore. And with these federal judges slapping down all the mandates, how do you still justify it? I think it only stands to hurt Democrats going into the next year midterm elections. And this also provides a perfect contrast between what somebody who is sensible. I mean, don't get me wrong here. I'm not saying he's the greatest guy. He's up there with Ron DeSantis. No. He's still a Democrat. So I'm sure he still believes in late-term abortion and probably supports the BLM Marxist movement, all of that garbage. He probably is on board with that. I don't know what else his politics are, but he at least is smart enough or savvy enough or honest enough to admit, hey, maybe we should reverse course on this COVID stuff. Maybe, just maybe. And contrast that with New York's governor, the unelected Kathy Hochul. Remember her? The lady who said, Jesus wants you to get vaccinated. She went and gave some like preachy sermon about how, she invoked God. God wants you to get these vaccines. And, it's not the Christian thing to remain unvaccinated. Of course, super sacrilegious. I'll get into how they've been mocking God and everything else. It's ongoing with these people. But I mean, that governor of New York, she's going the other way. She's going the direction of Europe, of Austria, of Australia, Germany. She's trying to clamp down even more. I mean, suspended elective surgeries. And that was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, she extended emergency powers so that she could ban or suspend elective surgeries. And that was before an Omicron case was even detected in the United States. Right? So, I mean, props to this Colorado governor for essentially restricting his own power. I mean, that's pretty noble. When you declare an emergency, you basically have the power to do all these executive orders and, mobilize all these forces to whatever you need to do with public health, public safety. And he's saying, no, we're going to end it. And I just think that's kind of a good thing right there. So, moving on from that, Governor Jared Polis is doing a good thing in Colorado. Now, I want to talk briefly about what happened in Kentucky and Arkansas. And there's like 6 states that got hit, right? Arkansas, Mississippi, Tennessee, I think Missouri, Illinois. These horrible, horrible tornadoes went through. And I don't know if anybody's watching from any of those areas. I know I have a lot of people that watch from Kentucky. God bless you all. Thoughts and prayers with you. I hope that you're doing okay. I mean, this is pretty devastating, widespread damage. I mean, it looks like towns were wiped out. I've seen some of the images, just terrible. Look like bombs went off. And a scary thing about tornadoes, I think they're 10 times worse than hurricanes because, they can just pop up out of nowhere. These tornadoes went through overnight. So, I just can't even imagine, your power going out and not knowing which way is up and how to get through and try to get to shelter. So it's really sad. And I guess the death toll is really, really high, especially in Kentucky, 64 people. So if anybody's watching from Kentucky, prayers to you. I mean, it's really sad. And it's really unfortunate that people are, of course, which we should not be surprised, looking to seize power and, advance their narrative about climate change, right? The exact link between tornadoes and climate change is hard to draw. Here's why. So at least NPR is trying to be honest about it. But if you look on social media, people are saying this is due to climate change. Get used to the new norm. They're telling you basically you need to abandon your fossil fuel usage. No more heating your homes. No more driving trucks. No more steak dinners. Climate change. Get used to this new normal. So they always use it as an opportunity to fearmonger. They're still trying to find victims. They're still trying to find and recover people from the rubble, from the devastation. And you got people like here, like the FEMA administrator, saying this is the new normal. Expect these dangerous storms. And it's like these tornadoes, yes, the climate change is real. Climate change is real, but climate change is always happening. Mother Earth is more powerful than you and I. I think we know that, right? Some people don't. Some people think that man is God and man can dictate and control the climate. We try, for sure, we try to do that. I mean, obviously, there's weather modification programs. We have one here in the United States. No one ever talks about it. China has one. I'm sure Russia has one. So people can manipulate the weather. However, you cannot change Mother Earth. I tell you what, we're only a handful of natural disasters away from this entire planet being wiped clean, right? The natural disasters can wipe out man. We can't do as much as we think we can, you know? So I say all that to say, there's people trying to cash in on this and use it to say, hey, look, here's why we need to elect people. They're going to pass a sweeping legislation that will enact climate change and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, it's obviously just a scam. I think it's a scam. It's a power grab. I've always been somewhere in the middle, like climate change skeptic. I never bought into this is man-made. We need to stop so much fossil fuel consumption and putting out all these emissions into the atmosphere. I always believe that we should try to take care of the environment. I don't like seeing masks all on the ground, ending up in landfills, ending up in the ocean. I think we could do a better job taking care of the earth, the place we live. We can also do a better job of preserving nature. We could find better ways, more efficient ways. We should always be trying to innovate to be more efficient, right? But at the same time, it's so obvious that the people who rush to make these kind of statements are just trying to advance their own power. They have their own motive. They have their own agenda. And it's really clear. So expect more talk about the Green New Deal over this. They're going to seize that opportunity as soon as we have some kind of nor'easter storm go through, any kind of blizzard, basically any climate event whatsoever. They say, look, this is climate change. It doesn't matter if it's hot, cold, rainy, hurricanes, tornadoes, drought. It's all climate change. Wildfires, they blame everything on climate change. But then when you look and see like some of the deadliest tornadoes in American history or the most devastating happened like 100 years ago. So I think it ebbs and flows. And I think these people are mostly just lying about climate change being this man-made thing. And it's always here in the United States. It's always in Western countries that they try to push this Green New Deal garbage. They never go to places that are like the habitual polluters, India and China. They never want to talk to them about that. So it's just very interesting. But these people are saying it's the new normal, so just get used to it. Fearmonger. You guys know the routine. They fearmonger about climate change, racism, white supremacy, of course, and COVID-19. That's what they do. So expect some more propaganda videos like this one here where they're just showing a bunch of devastation. Yeah. But yeah, if you're in Kentucky, if you're in any one of the states affected, I hope everything is okay with you and your loved ones. I had this one mixed up by, this was Jared Polis, just another headline, him saying he's not terribly alarmed by the Omicron variant. I seriously wonder if he's just saying that to try to salvage his chances of re-election. I just wonder what that's about. And Biden's vaccine mandate, as you guys know, it's DOA. That's why I have this pulled up here. There's so many people, companies, schools that are, now that there's no vaccine mandate at all, They're backing down from vaccine mandates in schools, employers. This is a huge win, but it's not being really reported on. Of course, why would they? Some people want this to go on forever because it makes them richer, more powerful, makes you more poor, helps advance the build back better agenda where you will own nothing and be happy. You know, that Klaus Schwab stuff. And of course, we know, like I've said weeks and weeks and weeks, months, I've been talking about this. The coronavirus attacks fat tissue, scientists find. So we already knew this, right? Now they're doing studies proving that COVID attacks fat tissue. So while lockdowns make people fatter, and we're not talking about health, all we're doing is setting up our population for the next time we have one of these pandemics come through here to take out a bunch of people who have underlying health conditions. We're not trying to nip that in the bud. See, people, they never cared about health. It's not about health. It's not about health. It's not about the climate. It's not about racial equity. It's about division and domination, period. Now let's move on to some other topics here. Fired Chris Cuomo and suspended CNN producer pal accused of training minors to be sexual submissives are seen cavorting together and performing a mock papal blessing. Really sick stuff here. So all the perverts are just concentrated at these networks. Now it makes sense why you got limited to no coverage. If it didn't already make sense before, it probably did. But now you really have a crystal clear image of why they are not covering the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, because they got pedophiles all amongst them in their ranks. Sexual deviants, perverts. Andrew Cuomo, this producer at CNN. You got Lubin Tubin, the masturbator on the Zoom call. He got hired back. They celebrate each other. They defended and called Joseph Rosenbaum a hero. Are you seeing the pattern here? So this producer for CNN has been arrested already. And I don't know what the charges are. Oh, he's been in charge with enticing minors to engage in unlawful sexual activity. And then bragged about being shoulder to shoulder with Chris Cuomo. You can't make this stuff up. These people are getting caught red-handed. All of this darkness is coming to the light. People are seeing it. They're taking L's. Will Don Lemon be fired next? I don't know. He's at least been accused of being a deviant. So one would think that they would drop the hammer on him next. How many more sick people do we not know about in the media, in the ranks of, politics, in Hollywood? All of this perversion, you guys, it's all coming out. All this stuff is coming out now. How many of these people are tied to Epstein? How many of these people flew on jets? These people are sick, and I'm just happy it's all coming to light now. What are the odds that Cuomo's producer was grooming children while his brother was being inappropriate with women, and while he works for a network that hires people back who, unsolicited masturbate in front of their coworkers and other sick things that go unpunished, unchecked? They fear no consequences. That's why they kind of been doing this with impunity. And only now that there's a big, bright spotlight being shine on it, are they starting to let people go. Well, we're going to have to fire you. We're going to have to terminate your employment, not because what you did was wrong, but because it's come to light. Documents show that this happened. Super unethical. That's to put it mildly. So, yeah, moving on. This is more of that. This will make you mad, but it's more of what I think is just really rage bait. But it's really also, they're doing it to mock you. So they want you to be mad. SNL hip hop nativity skit shows baby Jesus twerking, Mary as a stripper, and baby daddy Joseph with a pimp walk. This isn't new. They mock Christianity. They mock Christians. They mock Jesus and God all the time. Every chance they get. The Seth Rogen show, the Santa ink. They make all these mockeries of Christianity. And you notice that you never, ever, ever will see them mock Islam or Judaism. They'll never do it. Have you ever seen an SNL skit mocking Muhammad? No, you haven't. You'll never see it. They even have a word for it. If you mock Islam, they call you what? An Islamophobe. If you have any disparaging comments or things to say about Judaism, guess what they call you? Anti-Semitic. Well, what if you mock Christians? Is there a name for that? If you disparage Christians, if you make fun of Christians, is there any term for that? No. Okay, it's just Christians that get this kind of treatment, routinely mocked. Sick, you know. We've seen so much of it this year. So much of it come out this year. The Travis Scott concert, all of the evil, all the other stuff that's coming out. And now SNL just casually mocking Jesus twerking. Of course, I'm not going to play the video. It's cringe. It's disgusting. But that's who these people are. And these are the same people that are scolding you. And then they have the nerve to get mad that nobody wants to tune in and watch their garbage. They get mad when they get these ratings. And then, of course, can't forget about this. This just came out last week. Look at this. What do we have here outside of the United Nations headquarters? Some kind of a beast from the book of Revelations. This was last week. They unveiled a statue of a beast outside of the headquarters in New York City. The statue is bizarre and resembles the beast from the book of Revelation. You know, they're not doing a whole lot to convince conspiracy theorists, air quotes, out there that they're for the greater good and they really just care about humanity. And you're just a paranoid tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist when they're putting out statues that look like this. What the hell are we looking at here? So, yeah, that's the United Nations for you, just erecting beast statues. You can't make this up. As they say, you know, Alex Jones is one of those far-right conspiracy theorists. I feel like there's something that they have to reveal who they are. They have to show it. That's why they do the symbolism all the time, right? The 666, you've seen it all year. You saw the little satanic ritual accidentally just air on the news clip. Remember, oops, how did that happen? How did we just happen to have a satanic ritual just happen to just drop into our live news broadcast? And now we got this disgusting looking beast statue outside of the United Nations headquarters. But there's definitely no agenda. There's definitely no dark energy. There's none of that stuff, guys. Don't go down the rabbit hole. All right. Moving on. Andy No from Andy No over the weekend. A far left activist recorded Walmart private security detaining an alleged shoplifter in North Portland. The alleged thief screams, "Mama," and "I can't breathe" repeatedly in reenactment of George Floyd's final moments.
So these guys are threatening to arrest me because they're carrying guns because that makes them feel like big people.
Mama, kill me! Mama! Mama! They're killing me! Ah! Oh, they're killing me!
They've also threatened to arrest me if they don't have the power to do because I'm not doing anything. Well, I didn't see that. What I saw from my expert witness testimony.
Back up!
Don't yell at me.
Killing me!
Back do it.
Back up now! Back up now! Seriously, dude, you can film from over there.
Don't tell me where I can film. Don't tell me where I can film.
Back up over there now. You can film. Film from over here, okay? You can in the fucking bubble. It's pissing me off.
Now, see,
So these guys.
now you see, this is somebody who just wants to get some clout. That's what that is. That's why he's recording that. Okay. This is really easy to pick apart. Number one, if you can't breathe, you're probably not able to say you can't breathe because you're not breathing. Okay. And then, yeah, saying the same things that George Floyd said, my mama, I can't breathe. I mean, this to me feels like obviously this person was alleged stealing. I think it was an alleged shoplifter. So the person was stealing. To me, that video looks pretty humane. It doesn't look like the cops are beating the guy. His head is obviously to the side. He's talking. So we know for a fact he can breathe. He's talking. and he's saying that they're killing me. And then this guy's just over here filming. Now, if the cops were truly killing somebody in front of you, wouldn't you like intervene? Wouldn't you do something other than stand there and film? I think people just want to go viral. I think people just want to be victims. We know that there's now a culture in America. You see it from Jussie Smollett all the way down to every person that commits a hate crime hoax against themselves. They want to be victims because they believe there's some kind of social currency in it. They can, catapult themselves into some kind of role. They can be seen and praised and celebrated for their heroism because, being a victim, getting arrested by the police when you break the law, if somebody catches it on video, obviously the optics of it are just going to trigger some people to make them think that this was wrong, this was done in vain, and you'll be seen as this victim. So I can't tell if the dude on the ground is black, white. I assume Andy No would have highlighted that in there. If he's black, I don't know. I guess it doesn't really matter. The point is, this is the state of these cities in Portland, Seattle, New York City. If you're anywhere near these cities, I advise you to get out of these cities because you're only going to see more of this. And all it takes is some random thing like this to happen in your neighborhood down the street from your house to have a bunch of Antifa and BLM show up, riots, next thing you know, and make no mistake, that will probably be happening next year. I personally believe that it'll be to the detriment of Democrats. It will be to the detriment because it's all taking place in their city. And after last year's riots in 2020, I don't think people in these cities are going to stand for it anymore. They think it probably helps them to push the narrative to get black people out to vote Democrat. Hey, look, there's more police brutality on the rise. You have to vote for us so we can fix it, even though it's happening on our watch. It's happening in our jurisdictions. It's happening in cities we've controlled for the last 50, 60, 70 years. You got to vote for us. The cycle continues. It's just a hamster wheel of insanity. And I think normal, honest people want to get off of it. So if they haven't moved out of these cities, they haven't at least moved to the burbs, they're going to vote a different way. Right? And here we go. Oakland backtracks, votes to add police as crime surges. Imagine my shock. Color me shocked right now. Oakland backtracks and decides, you know what? We need to hire more cops. Because as it turns out, when you announce that there's going to be a cut to police funding, you're going to reduce the budget, give them less resources, demoralize them on top of that because a lot of police left the force last year. Then criminals are going to take that and say, well, dang, I guess I can go and commit this crime now because there's going to be less cops. Who would have thought? And so now the city decides to backtrack. Well, unfortunately, they already hit their record for the year. I think it's their all-time record, 131 homicides in Oakland, California. Virtually every city, every major left-wing city has surpassed their previous record for homicides. I think Philly's at like 513. We know Minneapolis and St. Paul, both of those cities, have tremendous crime. St. Paul hit its record, 45 homicides. Minneapolis, I lost track of their number, but it's significantly higher. And so these cities, after defunding the police, after demoralizing the police, after all of that rhetoric, right, because they thought it would help them, and it was part of their just plan to destabilize their city, destabilize their area, now they're backtracking. So are they backtracking? Some of these cities backtracking because they're like, we need to get our act together. Next year is elections. We need to try to clean up our act a little bit because polling isn't good for Democrats right now. That's what I'm wondering. So they have a record number of officers leaving. Somebody said in Oakland, our staffing numbers are down to 675. The department has fallen below the 678 mandate of Measure Z. This time last year, we had 723 officers. 73% of officers who resigned over the past year are not of retirement age. So again, get out of these cities. If you don't want to deal with it, get out of the cities. And it's not just Oakland. Here's Minneapolis. refund the police. The Minneapolis City Council and mayor voted to restore funding after crime surge. So the epicenter of where all of this happened last year, Minneapolis, they went from having dismantle the police on the ballot just in November to now voting probably unanimously to refund police. Take that, Ilhan Omar. It's the squeaky wheel that gets the grease. These far left people with these big megaphones shouting, defund the police. We need to dismantle the police department. When it comes to the voters, they're like, hell no, Ilhan Omar, no. So it's funny that the people that wanted to defund the police, as soon as you kick it back to the voters, they're saying, no, actually, we want more police presence. As it turns out, carjackings are on the rise. I just read a headline in Minneapolis where they're saying it's not even safe to get out of your car if you get in a fender bender because carjackings are on the rise that way. So if they see somebody that's, pulled over on the side of the road, they're going to come and carjack you. They're already giving you instructions in places like California and New York how to avoid this crime because we basically can't stop the crime. We have nothing to do to curb the crime. So here's what you can do to make yourself safer. And of all the things they mentioned, they didn't mention anything about, carry a firearm with you. That's never mentioned. Funny how that works, right? Moving on to hate crime news. I just said a few minutes ago, hate crimes are the way that most people, I think on the left, people that are trying to, gain some superstardom, trying to get some currency and seeing themselves as a victim, catching themselves in the moment. They don't want to acknowledge the fact that the majority of these hate crimes are coming from one particular race, but you're not allowed to talk about it, right? Here is a video from New York where a black man attacks a Chinese woman and yelled, "You effing Chinese." This is on December 1st. And I don't know if they've captured the person or not, but these hate crimes, racially motivated crimes that nobody wants to talk about, is it just flies in the face of their narrative. Their narratives are getting exposed. That Asian hate crime, Stop Asian Hate, that ended quickly. There you can see the black male suspect attacking someone for being Chinese. But you're not allowed to talk about that. Especially if you're white, you can't even say it, even though it's true, even though every single person knows it's true, except some people try to hide it or try to downplay it. From Jussie Smollett all the way down to the average just Joe Schmo on the street, they're trying to catch themselves in an instance where they are a victim so they can advance their narrative, and politicians can campaign on it and the media can fundraise on it and get their ratings while these cities get more and more dangerous. Sometimes you just got to say it like it is, man. It's mostly black men committing these crimes, coming from fatherless homes. We could go down the list of all of the reasons why they end up in situations like this. Of course, they're still making the conscious decision to be a monster, to be a criminal. But still, there's a lot of factors that led them to thinking, hey, this is okay. I'm going to just do this. I'm going to get away with it because, if I'm in Chicago, Kim Foxx will just let me go. If I'm in St. Louis, the George Soros prosecutor there will, just let me go. I'll get a slap on the wrist. And it's also rhetoric from authors like this. This guy right here, and this is from April. I don't know how I'm just hearing about it. Author Ben Phillip talks to CBC about his book where he writes about trapping white people in a room where they would then blow up and be gassed.
What would happen if there was a race war and what side you would be on. And you took it to a place that I just found really shocking and disturbing to read. Would you?
And before I play the rest of this, I want you guys to know the reason why I'm playing this is not to glorify it. It's to expose it. It's this type of rhetoric that goes unchecked. It's the open racism that does not get discussed because it's coming from the wrong people. And they see it as somehow racial equity. There's something that goes on in their mind where they justify this, or they just flat out ignore it and they're okay ignoring it, even though it's completely wrong. But unless it gets exposed, we can't do anything about it. So we have to expose people doing this evil regardless of what they look like.
Say a little bit about that.
Sure. Actually, fun fact, that section used to be so much longer. So thank you to my editor for like condensing it.
Mhm.
I'm a big Dungeons and Dragons person, so I went into advanced world building of what that race war could look like.
Mhm.
And they were just like, no, maybe just like half a page.
Mhm.
It was ultimately just trying to take the state of the world to its logical conclusion. If we all have to sort of exist in this common land together, and we can't get along, and we can't heal, and we can't try to understand each other, if it's always going to be us versus them, define the us, define the them, however you want, then, I guess I was wrestling with the question that isn't the end result of that just all out warfare, like Game of Thrones style warfare? And what does that look like? And I lived in that sort of straight thought for a few pages. And it was disturbing to write too, because I'm not a violent person. I love all my white friends.
Well, for people who haven't read the book, you write about you say, I'll when this race war hits its crescendo, I'll gather you all into a beautifully decorated room under the pretense of unity. I'll give a speech to civility and all the good times we've shared. I'll smile as we raise our glasses to your good white health while the detonator blinks under the table, knowing the exits are locked and the air vents filled with gas. I mean, I'm a Jewish person, and grandparents survived the Holocaust. I can't tell you how it felt to read that sentiment. And I wanted to say to you that I'm so sorry that your experience of the world made you feel that way and made you feel compelled to write that. How do you reflect on?
How is it that she was able to sympathize with him and his emotional struggle, his fragility? Right? That's what it's about. Fragility. So she sympathized with his fragility instead of his homicidal visions, his fantasies of not homicidal, genocidal, his genocidal fantasies. I mean, he's not the first person to talk like that. He's not the first person to dehumanize people based on race and be in the public eye. I mean, you've got that crazy racist Rutgers professor, Brittany Cooper. You've had Nick Cannon say racist things. You've had people openly talk about genociding people based on skin color. And we're supposed to just, pretend like it's not happening or it's okay because we're moving towards equity. But you don't get a lot of people outright condemning it. You don't see a lot of anger about it. You don't see anybody really upset, really even caring about it. You see them going the other way, talking about white supremacist uprisings. And then you got people saying, we need to heal, we need to come together. But then they will say nothing. If you play this clip for some of your friends and family, they'll probably just disregard it. They'll be like, well, what about what happened to the Native Americans? They'll deflect or revert back to something that happened long time ago. And it's almost as a means to justify, like, well, in order to right the wrong, we got to commit some other acts. And I just think it's really, really dangerous. I remember a time where the world wasn't like this. It's shocking. It's honestly shocking that I can easily, without hardly really searching, find videos just like this, people talking like this on the internet, no ban, no censorship, openly talking about genocide. Honestly, calling for genocide, committing genocide, running people over with a car. And then it's just out of the news. They just want you to forget about it like it didn't happen. That is a crazy, crazy situation. But hey, out of this darkness, we will come into the light. That's all I can really say. And that's why I continue to expose it. That's why I keep talking about it. So I'll pull up the chat here in a second. I just wanted to talk about this last little story here. Much lighter. Here you have, what is his name? What's this guy's name? I forget his name right now. Chris Wallace. I'm having a case of the Mondays mentally. Anyway, here you go. Chris Wallace and his good buddy Wolf Blitzer. ABL says, look at these guys, besties already, probably been golfing together for the past 35 years. Yes, Chris Wallace is leaving Fox News and going over to CNN. That's just kind of crazy that you would leave Fox. It's one thing if you want to leave Fox News, whatever, but you're going to go join a network shrouded in controversy. I mean, good Lord, from Cuomo to Don Lemon to now this producer, Chris Wallace is just casually just going to go over there. And I know plenty of people will be like, good riddance, goodbye. He's a liberal anyway. You guys remember the way that he was debating Trump during the debates last year? Trump was pretty much debating him and Biden at the same time. You know, Chris Wallace is a little snake, but it's just really funny that birds of a feather right here. So him and Wolf Blitzer matching, dressing with the exact same. It's a big club, y'all. It's a big club. I think I'm not shocked at this photo at all. But yeah, and I'm not shocked about Chris Wallace heading on over to CNN. I mean, that's probably where he fits in naturally anyway. And if we're being totally 100 right here, who cares? I mean, this is a nothing burger to me because I don't really watch Fox News anyway. I watch Tucker Carlson. That's about it. Every once in a while, I watch Laura Ingraham, but other than that, I do not watch Fox News. I mean, it just is what it is. I prefer alternative news because Fox News really has shown who they are over the years. They've shown who they are, and it's not surprising. You know, they got Juan Williams and they got a bunch of other liberals. They're always trying to appease the leftist narrative, you know, so it's not really, I just don't trust that corporate media establishment. So that's it. That's all I have for today. I'm going to pull up the chat here because I'm pretty sure that there's some other news topics that I have not covered that might be big news for today. Somebody said, dude, I forgot about 1877 Black Wall Street. We all know who the party was who took away their businesses and their houses to terminate them to vote for them. Yes, we do know. We're not allowed to talk about that. Remember, the parties switched. They switched. They just did. I mean, a book told you me so. So, you know, in the book, they said the party switched. So the party switched. And it's just so obvious. I mean, if you just look at the conditions of Black people in these cities like Baltimore, Maryland, places that have a really strong like Democrat supermajority, they're thriving, right? Obviously. And that's proof of the party switch, right? Just kidding. Mike Wallace, Chris Dad did an expose on the vaccine that screwed up a bunch of people in the 70s. I think Gutfeld is somewhat entertaining, and sometimes Tucker Carlson brings up some good points. I would definitely not recommend using them as your main source, though. Yeah, you guys almost never see me use Fox News articles for information. I support the little guy. If you think about it, I see it as like, you could shop at Walmart or you could shop at the local vendor. You could shop at the, you know, the mom and pop place. The same concept can apply to media. You can use Fox News because, I mean, they're going to cover a lot of things you would talk about. Or you can go to these smaller news outlets, get them some clicks, get them some views. That's just kind of how I view it. And Gutfeld, yeah, he's definitely funnier than most of the late night talk show hosts. That's for sure. God bless you, Mike. Stay safe and have a wonderful Christmas. I sure will. I sure will have a wonderful Christmas. I'm going to celebrate Christmas. You know, there's a website. I think I found this from a Mark Dice video, believe it or not, where I guess you can find the nearest Black Santa to you. This is crazy to me. I mean, we're about this close to kids no longer. Oops. If there's kids watching, I'm sorry. We're about this close to kids no longer believing in Santa. If they now have a Black Santa tracker or something where you can find a Black Santa or a Filipino Santa or whatever color Santa you want, I think it's so stupid. It's all really dumb. Chinese nationals are all up in comment section regarding these racial conflicts, pushing segregation and more conflict. It's blatant now. All up in these comment sections. What comment sections? Are you talking about on my videos or just in general videos? Let me scroll back up because I'm curious if there's any commentary about some of the other topics I covered. And I guess I could flip this to live chat here. I appreciate everybody for being here. Please, if you haven't already, give this stream a thumbs up. That's the way we overcome the algorithmic abuse by YouTube. Are you guys okay? So I'm reading some comments. I think you're probably referring to the guy that has some genocidal fantasies about gassing people. That's in a book. That's in a book. I'm not saying books should be banned or burned. I'm just saying who's platforming this crap? And the woman sympathized with him. I'm sorry that you feel this way. I'm sorry that that's been your experience, instead of saying you need to go ahead and get your head examined, because that's not how people think. That's not normal. It's okay. They don't know how to deal with the emotional stress. So I understand. It's the white liberals that are doing this. It really is. They want to coddle people who have these kind of views. I mean, Ibram X. Kendi, the guy that's pushing the critical race theory. I mean, it's just sick what's happening. Someone said Polis just wants those ski dollars. I mean, it could be. It could absolutely be that his motivations for lifting the restrictions have nothing to do with freedom. It could just be that he's like, yeah, it's not really working out, or I'm trying to get reelected. There could be some other ulterior motive. It could be that a bunch of ski resorts in Aspen went to the governor and said, hey, we're not putting any money into your campaign unless you lift these psychotic restrictions. We're losing business, so you're going to lose money. That could be very well what it is. All I'm saying is he's breaking with his party and lifting the mandates. So if I were a conservative in Colorado, I would be happy about that. You know, and I don't know what you do in a situation where your state is so blue that the best you can do is a Democrat that's not as crazy as the other ones. If you know a Republican can't get elected, you may still vote for the Republican anyway. But let's say, for example, he was facing a primary challenge from somebody worse than him. Wouldn't you then maybe vote Democrat just to vote for him? So you're voting for the lesser of the evil. I don't know. It's kind of a weird situation because what do you do? And the same can be said on the Republican side here in Florida. I'm going to vote for Marco Rubio next year, not because I think he's the best, but because if I don't vote for Marco Rubio, like if I just decide to forego it altogether, then that means Val Demings, who's a Democrat, could get elected. She's obviously worse than Rubio, though Rubio's not the best. So we're kind of stuck with a rhino. If there was a primary challenger to Rubio, I would consider voting for them, but only if that primary challenger would be strong enough to beat Val Demings in the general. So it's kind of a sticky situation. I really don't know. That's just kind of the state of politics right now. You've got people that are near the center, whether they're left or right, but they represent like the old guard. They're either a rhino or a neoliberal. And then you've got people who are either freedom fighters, more America first, people like Ron DeSantis. And then you've got people that are on the far left, the people that are like the communists, the people that really have these ideas like defund the police and, you know, trans this and that. And, you know, it's weird. That's the state of politics in America right now. Everything is kind of splintered, you know. I'm a teacher and St. Nicholas was real, but Santa has been the North Pole dwelling magic sleigh riding myth longer than the true story. Jeez. Did y'all believe in Santa? I did. It's just, I think the whole Santa thing is weird. It's cool, but it's also, when you get older, you're like, dang, we literally lie to kids so they could believe in something. I mean, it's cool. It's whatever, but kind of weird. It's kind of weird when you zoom out and think about it. Rubio is a small rhino. I will vote for him because he will stop being a rhino when Republicans take the House. I'll just say this. I would rather have Rubio sit in there and do nothing than have a Democrat go in there and do something, but something that I don't like, something that destroys the economy, is something that's just not in my best interest. So if I have to pick between somebody that's just going to sit on their ass for 6 years in the Senate seat versus somebody that's going to take some radical action, I'm going to choose the guy that's just going to sit there. Thank you, Anna, for the super chat. I appreciate you. Some of you still believe in Santa. Okay, that's all right. There's magic in that belief, you know. You've seen Polar Express. It's about the magic. DeSantis is staying in Florida for now, but I think he will run in the future. I've said it once and I'll say it again. Ron DeSantis, 2028. I don't want to hear anything about DeSantis for president before 2028. Period. Even if Trump doesn't run in 2024, I don't think DeSantis should run in 2024. I just don't. Not until we shore up Florida for the long haul. Florida is a red state. It's getting more red, more registered Republicans and Democrats for the first time ever. People moving here. You saw people moving here. You know the motives of people moving here. The majority of people were trying to get away from all of the insanity. 2020 really showed people what the difference was between a Democrat and a Republican. The response to the pandemic. People didn't know that their local government was capable of such draconian measures. And you're seeing states like New York, they're going harder at it. Kathy Hochul, unscientific, just re-implementing mask mandates indoors. I mean, they got the vaccine passports. It's crazy. I think a lot of people really woke up. Someone said it'll be even more red once I can move there. Come on down. Register as a Republican on your way in. If you're not already a Republican, vote red. That's all I got to say. Did you go to the Trump thing with Bill O'Reilly the other night? I did not. No, I couldn't make it. I just couldn't go. But I heard that there were questions about the crowd size and the turnout. I got invited to go, but I just wasn't able to make it. But yeah, from what I saw, there were quite a few people there. As I wouldn't be surprised, you know. I mean, we're talking Florida here. I think anywhere he goes, he can draw a crowd. So I hope Nancy Pelosi won't be really moving to Florida. You should all run her out of town. I want to say it again. I got duped, as did plenty of other people with bigger platforms than me. People like Dan Bongino got duped into believing that Nancy Pelosi was actually shopping real estate in Florida. And while that may have very well been true, she did not buy a house. Some people said she wasn't even looking in Florida. Somebody just spread some fake news. And I got caught up in it. But hey, you know what? I came clean. I said, you know what? I spread some fake news unknowingly. So let me retract that. That's the honest thing to do. Is if you said something that ended up being not true, go back and, especially if you find out, go back and retract. Someone said they're hoping Nancy Pelosi moves right next to me. I'm going to go over there and get some of her ice cream if she does. Nah, she's not. If she's moving next to me, that must mean I live in a really, really rich area. If Nancy Pelosi's my next door neighbor, that either means that she's down to the middle class or I've moved on up. Are we still talking about Santa Claus? He was based on a real person. How can the derivative be older than the source? Do you not understand how time works? Or somebody's debating the Santa Claus thing. I would be a horrible neighbor if I lived next to Nancy Pelosi. Is that what you said? You retracted your post there. Anyway, I don't really know what else is going on, you guys. I will do we know anything else about the Ghislaine Maxwell trial? I know that a couple of accounts have been removed as, of course, they continue to protect pedophiles. Here's from Jack Posobiec 4 hours ago. Breaking, Ghislaine Maxwell may call 35 witnesses in her defense, some from abroad, her lawyer says. Very interesting. She's going to call some witnesses. Like, no, she didn't do anything wrong. She's completely innocent. She knows she's guilty. That's why she fled. That's why she fled. That's why she was living like off the grid. But yeah. Breaking, Biden won't extend student loan relief and confirms student loan payments restart February 1st. I thought that Biden was supposed to cancel student loan debt. I mean, a lot of people voted for the man because that's what they thought. Here we are, just on Breaking 911. Before I wrap, let's just see if there's anything else going on. Violent brawl breaks out at Realtor convention inside Harrah's Resort in Atlantic City. Dang. I probably can't play that video because, I can get a strike for broadcasting violence, even though it's stuff that happens. And I'm not glorifying it, but whatever. From Peter Ducey, we've seen an arsonist burn down a $500,000 Christmas tree in New York City, back out on the streets. Does the president think that's good governing? Saki, I think I've spoken to the president's concerns about retail theft. It's hard to feel bad for some of these retailers that supported defund the police and they looked the other way during the riots last year. And now those chickens have come home to roost. I still don't condone it. Obviously, I think it's indicative of the policies that are in place. They do it because they can. They don't fear consequences. I have yet to hear of smash and grab in Dallas, Texas, Houston, Nashville, Tallahassee, Miami. Why aren't these happening in red states? Probably because these store owners have guns. Probably because civilians on the streets have guns, and because we have a law and order vibe, right? So I think that there's a reason why you're seeing smash and grab in San Francisco, in New York, in Chicago, in Minneapolis, and other blue areas. There's a reason for that. Biden mistakenly says the Mid-South and Midwest were hit by a hurricane. Oh, gosh. Let's hear it.
Of the fate of their loved ones and the debris that you see scattered all over the hurricane's path. They lost their homes, they lost their businesses, and it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. And we still don't know how many lives are lost or the full extent of the damage. But I want to emphasize.
But we do know that climate change is to blame for a hurricane going through the Midwest. Sheriff Grady Judd praises Instagram for saving victim in child porn probe. He slams Apple. Grady Judd. So anybody live in Polk County, Florida? You got yourself a damn good sheriff. Funny one, too. Wanted. Pimp skips out on 40-year sentence for sex trafficking teen after his bond was reduced. He is a dangerous pimp, and now he is somewhere in the wind, Assistant District Attorney Kanisha Day said. When the victim showed up to testify, you could just see that he knew he was going to prison. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this to see where this was at, where this pimp who skipped out on his sentence after his bond was reduced might be at. Oh boy, this one's actually in Texas. This is in Texas. So there you have it. Probably a Texas Soros-funded prosecutor or judge or both that just let this guy back on the street or reduced his bond so that he could skip town. But hey, it's just a right-wing conspiracy theory that all this stuff is happening, guys. That's it. Okay, cool. We're at an hour, so I guess I'll go ahead and wrap. But if you have not yet, please make sure that you give this stream a thumbs up. Give it a thumbs up. And yeah, if you're new, subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell notification. I appreciate everybody for tuning in today. I appreciate all the super chatters, all the moderators, all the people that have been supporting me from day one, and the people that have supported me along the way. This channel only stays afloat because of you guys. So I want to thank you and appreciate you for that. God bless you. Thank you for tuning in, and make sure that you're subscribed too. I mean, if you've been a long time subscriber, go and click subscribe. Make sure that you are subscribed, because YouTube does mysteriously unsubscribe people from my channel. Happens to a lot of people. So make sure that you do that. All right. All right. Now, God bless you all. Thank you for tuning in. I will catch you in the next stream.